Welcome to Storytime. Today's featured story is Thumbelina. Once upon a time, there was a kind woman who wished to have a tiny daughter, but she had no idea where to find one. She decided to visit a fairy and ask for her help. Here is a magical grain of barley, said the fairy. It is no ordinary seed. Plant this in a flower pot and see what happens. The woman thanked the fairy and went home and planted the seed. Before long, the seed grew into a large, beautiful flower, but its petals remained tightly closed. "What a beautiful, lovely flower!" the woman exclaimed and kissed the bud. With the kiss, the bud opened up, revealing a tiny girl. She was the smallest and loveliest girl that the woman had ever seen. She was barely as big as a thumb, and so she named her Thumbelina. The woman loved Thumbelina very much and treated her like a daughter. Thumbelina slept in a walnut shell bed with a mattress made of violet petals and a rose petal as a blanket. One night, a slimy, big toad crept in through the window onto the table where Thumbelina slept. "Why, she'll make a perfect wife for my son," croaked the toad. With that, she grabbed Thumbelina and her walnut bed and hopped out the window and down the garden path. Oh no! The old toad brought Thumbelina to the muddy riverbank where she lived with her son. He was just as ugly as his mother, and could only croak at the tiny sleeping girl. "Ribbit, ribbit." "Stop croaking," said the mother toad, "or you'll wake her up. Let's put her in a big lily pad in the middle of the river while we tidy up." When Thumbelina woke up the next morning, she found herself surrounded by water. She had no way to reach the shore. Thumbelina sat down on the lily pad and cried. "Where am I?" Before long, the old toad swam out to the lily pad. "Soon you shall see and meet my son," said the toad. "He's going to be your husband. You'll live with us on the riverbank." Poor Thumbelina didn't want to marry a toad. She cried, "Oh no, not a toad!" and cried, and the fish in the river poked their heads up to see what was wrong. The fish agreed. They agreed that sweet Thumbelina should not marry a horrible toad, so they chewed through the stem of the lily pad. Once it was freed, the lily pad floated downstream, taking Thumbelina far away from the toads. Good riddance! As Thumbelina sailed down the river, the birds in the bushes chirped excitingly. "What a pretty girl! She's so gorgeous! Oh my goodness!" they twittered. Just then, a large beetle flew by and snatched her off of the lily pad. The beetle carried Thumbelina to a tree and placed her on a soft leaf. He fetched her some honey for her to eat and told her how pretty she was. "Oh my goodness, she is so cute!" Even if she didn't look like a beetle. After a while, the other beetles came to visit. All the lady beetles giggled at Thumbelina. She only had 2 legs and no antenna. Oh, they thought she just looked quite silly. Since the lady beetles started calling Thumbelina ugly, the beetle who had snatched her soon agreed. Oh no. He brought Thumbelina down from the tree and left her on a daisy. Poor Thumbelina wept because the beetles had teased her so much, but she really was just as lovely as ever. Don't you agree? All summer long, Thumbelina lived in the woods with only the singing birds to keep her company. She wove a bed with blades of grass and placed it under the large leaf to protect her from the rain. She ate nectar from the flowers and drank dew from their leaves. When the winter came, the plants withered away and the birds flew off to warmer places. Poor Thumbelina was terribly cold and alone, so she set off to find some shelter. At the edge of the woods, Thumbelina saw a small door. She knocked on it and was greeted by a field mouse. "Oh, you poor girl!" exclaimed the mouse. "You must be frozen. Come inside, where it's warm and cozy." The kind field mouse quite liked Thumbelina and invited the tiny girl to live with her. Thumbelina helped the mouse cook and clean and told her stories of her great adventures. My neighbor is coming to visit," said the mouse one day. "His house is even nicer than mine, and he has all the food he could ever need. If you're lucky, he might want to be your husband. Then he will take care of you." That evening, the neighbor did come over. Thumbelina was surprised to see that he was actually a mole. He talked quite a lot and had nothing nice to say about the sun or the flowers, as he's never seen them before. In fact, he hoped it would be a long winter, as he quite liked the cold. After dinner, the mouse asked Thumbelina to sing, and the mole fell in love with her as soon as he heard her lovely voice. The mole invited Thumbelina and the field mouse to visit his house and led them through a new tunnel he had just finished digging. As they walked, they saw a beautiful swallow lying dead on the ground in the mole's tunnel. "Oh, thank goodness I'm not born a bird," said the mole. "Nothing could be worse. All they do is chirp all summer, and when the winter comes, they become so cold they drop out of the sky." Thumbelina felt so sad as she looked at the bird. "Maybe he is one of the birds who sang to me all summer," she thought. "What a joy he had brought me." That night, Thumbelina couldn't sleep. She just kept thinking about the bird, cold and alone. She got out of bed, gathered some leaves, and carried them quietly down the tunnel. When she reached the swallow, she stroked his feathers and then gently placed the leaves around him. "Farewell, beautiful bird," said Thumbelina. Thank you for your beautiful summer songs." Thumbelina laid her head on the bird's chest and was quite startled when she heard a thumping noise. Dum-dum, dum-dum, dum-dum. It turned out to be the swallow's heart. He was still alive, only numb with cold. Now that he was warming up, he was returning to life. The next night, Thumbelina returned to the bird. He was awake. He was awake now, but still very weak. Thank you for helping me," said the swallow. "I feel so nice and warm again. Soon I'll be strong enough to fly back to the warm sunshine." "It's still cold outside," Thumbelina replied. "Just stay here and I'll take good care of you." The swallow told Thumbelina that he had torn his wing on a thorn and couldn't keep up with the other birds when they flew off to a warmer spot. That was all he could remember, and he didn't know how he ended up in the tunnel. The swallow stayed underground all winter long. Thumbelina took good care of him and was so happy that the mole and the field mouse ignored the bird. When spring arrived, Thumbelina helped the swallow outside. As he flapped his wings, the swallow asked Thumbelina to join him on his journey. I'm flying away to a warmer country where the sun always shines," says the swallow. "Will you come with me?" Thumbelina agreed and said goodbye to the field mouse, and she climbed up onto the swallow's back and he rose into the air. They flew over forests and lakes and mountains. At last, they reached the warm country where the fields were filled with lush flowers and butterflies fluttered from blossom to blossom. The swallow brought Thumbelina to the tall tree where he had his nest. Beneath the tree was a cluster of lovely white flowers. The swallow gently placed Thumbelina on the petals of the largest blossom. There, in the middle of the flower, was a tiny man, just the same size as Thumbelina. He had a gold crown on his head and delicate wings on his shoulders. In every flower was a tiny man or a tiny woman just like him, and he was the king of them all. The king was the most handsome man Thumbelina had ever seen. Likewise, the king thought Thumbelina was the loveliest girl in the world, and he placed his crown on her head. He asked Thumbelina to be his wife and the queen of all the flowers. He was certainly a different sort of husband than that toad or that mole. He was just like Thumbelina, and so Thumbelina said yes to the handsome king. The little lords and the ladies from the other flowers came to meet Thumbelina. Each brought a present for the new queen, but the best was the pair of beautiful wings. They were fastened to Thumbelina's shoulders so she could fly from flower to flower. The swallows sang a happy song, and they all lived happily ever after. And that was the story of Thumbelina. The end. Thank you so much for stopping by for Storytime. If you would like some more stories on my channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!